Hi, I'm Dorothy, and today I want to give you an overview of how to go about planning some kind of event. Now, this could be a wedding event, a farm festival, a pumpkin patch, and it can be large or small. The basics are somewhat the same. Not everything's the same, but somewhat. So I have a farm, 23 acres, and I have lots of room for a farm event. And I've always wanted to do a tomato festival. So this year I grow heirloom tomatoes and I grow blueberries, chili peppers, and heirloom squash. Those are my market garden venue. And I sell at the farmer's market, I sell online, and various places. But this year I wanted to do something a little bit more public and bring some people, especially customers, longtime customers, to our farm. So I've been thinking of a tomato festival for a long time. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna have a tomato festival. It's gonna have music and food and wine and all kinds of things. And it rapidly expanded into a very large festival. So today I'm scaling that down. We're still gonna do an event, but a much smaller event since it's my first one. And I'm gonna call it a tomato tasting. So this is an overview of how to do an event, small or large, and the 7 planning steps that you need to do before having this event. So follow me and I'll take you through what I think are the 7 most important steps to take when planning any kind of event. All right, follow me. Okay, step number 1 is, of course, to decide on your theme. Now, my theme, since I grow heirloom tomatoes and wanted a tomato fest, so my theme is going to be all around heirloom tomatoes. And this is where I start. How many tomatoes am I going to need? What kind am I going to need? And because I have to start planting them early on, like mid-March, I need to know this ahead of time. So I've planted, this is the greenhouse with the tomatoes that are going to come on first. And then I will take you to the outside area right next to the greenhouse where I planted another batch of heirloom tomatoes that will come on second. Just in case one is too early, one is too late, I wanted to make sure I had plenty of variety. Okay, I'll show you the other area. Okay, these are the outside tomatoes that will complement the timing of the indoor tomatoes. And speaking of timing, number 2 step is to figure out the day and the time of your event. And with something like tomatoes or a farm event, that is really important. I can't have an event when the tomatoes aren't ready, or when they're past due, or when they're not at their prime. So our tomatoes in Minnesota are going to be at their prime with the most abundance during mid-August through mid-September. And I do want to have it on a weekend because that's when I think the most people will have an opportunity to come out to our farm. So there's 4 Saturdays or Sundays in that time period from mid-August to mid-September. I'm choosing a Sunday because I work on Saturdays, and the timing is important too, the time of day. So from the research I've done, it sounds like the time of day best to have an event like this on the farm is between lunch and dinner. That allows people to have time to wake up, have their coffee, and get out to your farm, which is oftentimes a ways away from the city and the people that you want to come. So after lunch is a good time. Before dinner is a good time. And in our particular case, it's primarily because once the sun starts setting, mosquitoes are horrible. So I live in Minnesota. We have a really bad mosquito problem, and that is no fun to be eating and drinking and having a good time with mosquitoes all around. So I'm going to decide on a Sunday, excuse me, a Sunday between lunch and dinner, and probably mid-August through mid-September. Now, if you're doing a wedding or a pumpkin patch, of course your timing is going to be different. But for the tomato tasting, that's what I came up with. Okay, number 3. Okay, number 3 is how big? How big is your event going to be? What can your space handle? What can you personally handle? How much help are you going to have to handle it? So in my case, we have a lot of space on the farm for people, but we don't have very much space for cars. Our road is rural, there's no parking. So this area in here is a large grassy field right outside of our farm, and this is where we could park. So I figure we could maybe fit 50 cars in here, and each car can have however many people they want, 2, 6, whatever, because once they get inside, we have plenty of room. But you need to be clear on your event invitations or event planning that only 50 cars are allowed and that they will be cut off after that. You also want to make sure on your event invitations that you specify whether dogs are allowed and whether you want kids and that kind of thing. But more on that later with the specific planning. Right now we just need to go, how big can it be? So I'm limiting mine to 50 cars, which will probably end up being about 100 to 150 people. And this is the space, we'll have it all marked off, okay? Number 4 is the food and drink. And I'm going to take you back on the farm and we'll talk about food and drink a little bit and then get really specific on food and drink as this progresses. Today, it's an overview, okay? So let's go talk about food and drink. Okay, number 4, food and drink. Any event, no matter what kind, is going to have food and drink. Now, the drink part is a little bit more complicated than food because of regulations, whether that be your city or your state or your county. Different places have different regulations. In our case, I decided to make it an invitation party so that we could have alcohol as like a graduation party or any other kind of party would have on our premises. Now, if I made it a paid event, I would probably need to get a liquor license and that kind of stuff, which is not something that interests me at all. But check that out if you plan to have alcohol. With regards to the food, this is the area where, I mean, it's a mess right now, but that's because it's in the planning stages. But I've been collecting at the thrift store, I've been collecting a bunch of different pots and various types of things. So for the alcohol, the cocktail garden, this is going to be the cocktail garden where people will be able to make, of course, Bloody Marys since it's a tomato festival. And I'll probably have wine and ice and allow people to make their own. On this side will be tables and chairs for them to have some food. And the food setup is over on the other side. Now for food, I'm going to do, tomato-centric types of dishes. I'll probably have a gazpacho and some bruschetta. I don't know how different people say it different. And maybe something sweet, something that highlights each flavor of the various heirlooms. So that's in the planning stages. And once you get the food decided and the drink decided, then you make out some much more specific plans. All right, but that's my overview plan for the moment. A place to have them sit and enjoy, a place to have them mix their own drinks, and getting all the permits in a row. All right, let's move on. Okay, we are at number 5. Number 5 is your general layout. So in my case, for the tomato tasting, I need a place for the tables with all of the tomatoes out there and that people can bring their clipboards by and write notes and give it scores. So that will be long tables. I need a space for that. I need another space for information which I'm either going to do a Q&A myself at an information booth or just have some materials there. I need another space for food, and I showed you the space for drink, but the food will be in a different area. And then I finally need a space for my products. I'm not charging for the event, but I will have a donation cup set up to help pay for any of the employees that I have to use. And I will also be selling some of my tomato products, tomato jam, smoked tomato syrup, dried tomato powder. I have a lot of tomato products. So they will be able to purchase something on the site too. So that's like, I have little different areas in my farm of 23 acres to set up a distinctive layout for each individual category. So think about that, think about your layout. Do you want everybody all in one group, big area? In my case, I want to separate the tasting from the products, from the food, and that's number 5. Okay, as long as I'm here, I'll just go into number 6. Number 6 is, and this gets very specific. Number 6 is materials that you're going to need. And I will provide a checklist at some point after I get a little bit further along with this of the materials that I'm going to use. But I know I'm going to need signage, both to let people know where the farm is, where the tasting is, where each individual category table is. I know I'm going to need clipboards and notes for them to do their tasting with. I know I'm going to need serving utensils for eating and a range of other things, but those are some pretty key items. So I will provide a checklist, but this part is really important because once you get into the specifics, then you can get to number 7. And number 7 is, how much help do you need? Are you going to do this by yourself? Are you going to have volunteers? Are you going to have employees that you pay? And if so, how are you going to pay them if you're not charging for the event? So right now I have myself, and I have somebody that's working on food, and I have somebody that's working on getting the farm cleaned up. So between the 3 of us, I think we should be able to pull it off. I might have a few more volunteers, but it all depends on how well I do my planning on materials and who's gonna make these signs, who is going to set up the tables and buy all of the stuff. So get your checklist in order, get your materials in order, get your layout in order, and then lastly, make sure you have enough help. This should be fun for you, it should be fun for them, it should be, while it's not a festival, a tasting can be just as fun. All right? Stay tuned and I will get into more specifics later. All right? Thanks a lot for watching, and subscribe if you want to know more about these kinds of things. All right? Bye.